In this video, I'm responding to AdversusHaereses. Heresies. I don't. He made a video. Why in atheism nothing really matters. And I want to actually disagree with him. I don't totally disagree with him. There are some things that he gets right. But I'll address that later. He says that there's no morals in atheism, and that your moral code would constantly be changing because what is right today may not be what's right tomorrow. What's good and right tomorrow. He says because of evolution it changes. But if you look at it, even I think he mentions Ayn Rand in this video, but Ayn Rand addresses it. The basic function of life is to survive and to procreate, to go on. And when I was an atheist, that was, you know what? As a Christian, I think this is beautiful. I think a lot of things in atheism you can deduce. You know, you can get real morals out of it, and sometimes better. Because in atheism, what was my afterlife? My nephew, my nieces, and God willing, my kids if I ever have them, and any impact I put on this world, I can actually change the world. There's no final, there's no rapture or anything like that. It doesn't, it's not this Protestant view of God comes in soon and boom, because it doesn't matter what you do. You could build the tallest building, you could, cure everything, but God's just going to come back in the end and change it all anyway. So human effort really amounts to nothing. So I think a lot of the atheists see the nihilism in Christianity, and I think that's where Christopher Hitchens really attacks it as the nihilistic, solipsistic, really fatalistic. Because that's all in God's hands. You can't really do anything. And some people take that and say, well, there's no free will. Total, double predestinationist kind of. And that also addresses when he says life is meaningless, because that gives it meaning. You're here to procreate, to live, to procreate, to die. And Christopher Hitchens stresses that we need to die. There's a need to die. There's not enough room on this earth, and you wouldn't want, somebody hanging around all the time watching you. Now, personally, I wish my family could live forever. I love them to death, and I really like them too. But that's because I'm extremely lucky. Some people aren't. It's a good thing that some wicked and evil people die, or some abusive people die, and people get out from under their spell and that. So I don't think it's amoral, because if you look at Ayn Rand's Virtue of Selfishness, it's a collection of essays, not all by her, and her writings. It basically says that what we call good is self-centeredness. That the natural good is self-preservation, because you're not going to destroy the environment around you because you're going to protect it. You're not going to want to do violence. That basically in a peaceful but competitive society, you have real growth. So it doesn't benefit anybody to destroy the civilizations, be an anarchist. That's delusion. And he also talks about the historicity. He uses the word historicity. I don't want to say that's not a word, but that just sounds strange. Um, of Jesus and the resurrection. Yeah, I will grant him that. Okay, the Bible has more documentation than any other ancient work that we can get within about 100 years of it written down, of the actual manuscripts, not the full New Testament, of course. Um, and yes, in Hinduism and Buddhism, they don't really care if their stories are true or not. And yeah, their stories came really late. A lot of people try to equate a lot of the Hindu beliefs back to the Vedas or even the Upanishads. And all these the Vedas are based. Upanishads aren't Vedas. It's the Rig Veda, the really ancient stuff. Where no, they didn't. In many aspects, some of them were polytheistic and they had afterlife. And They didn't have reincarnation, and a lot of modern day Hindu belief stems from about um, 500 to 1100 years ago is when that really began. So I could see his point with that, but you really can't say, well, so many people believed it, therefore it's true. It just doesn't work. Trust me, I'm on your side. I know I'm arguing for the atheists here, being devil's advocate. But I'm a Christian, but I just don't think these arguments hold up. I have seen people who were a lot more moral and who were agnostic, you can call them atheists if you like, than people who have been infected by Christianity. And I say infected because it's not really belief, it's a fanaticism that just kind of catches in their brain, and their own psychotic delusions take over, and they kind of, or they get swept up in a mass herd because they're weak-minded. It's not a true uh, mystical experience or act of faith. Now, when I threw all belief out the window, and the belief that I had prior to this is different from the belief I have now. Christians, just the Protestant ones at least, their view of Christ was so twisted. It was it was really frightening the way they believed. Well, if Christ didn't resurrect, then there is nihilism. It's almost as if they were just about to become atheists, but they were afraid of eternal death, and they didn't like the idea. Well, if I don't have a book telling me what's right and wrong, that doesn't kind of sort of agree with what I already believe about right and wrong, then I could just go out and rape and kill. And I met a lot of people that said, well, if there's no good, I mean, I could just leave my children, go out and just party all the time. That's what I'm like. That's what I'd be doing. I'm like, no, you wouldn't. You're a good person. I know you. You're nice. And this was some actually a mother said this. I'm like, you're a nice mother. You wouldn't leave your kids. Kidding me? And she's like, well, yeah, probably not. I'm like, even if it was a selfish thing, you would love your children, right? I've seen you. She's like, yeah, she kind of admitted because a lot of evangelicals Christians use that line. Oh, well, if there's no God, then I can just do anything. That's not a moral way to live your life. To say only if there's a God will I have morals. Okay, lastly, this new fad of atheism. Yeah, it's I wouldn't put Christopher Hitchens and even AdversusHaereses in this belligerent new phase of atheism. But there's a lot of people who've heard some things by Christopher Hitchens and Dawkins and Dennett and Harris that they've just become belligerent. It's not thought out. They're almost just like the Christians. Well, I mean, it's the same heresy hunting as the Protestants do. Well, you're so stupid because you're delusional and they haven't looked at, oh wait, maybe everybody might not believe the total fanatical thing, and maybe that's not original ideas. Maybe that came much later. Maybe the fanaticism was something very late by uneducated people in rural America, which happens to be the case. But they don't. A lot of this new phase doesn't look at history or anything like that. So the Bible beaters of the early 2000 first-term Bush administration have now become the atheists of the Obama administration. It is a fad for some, not for all. I'm not going to name any names. There's no individuals I'm going to call them, but I know about them. And back in the 90s, there were probably Buddhists and whatever. So I do agree with the idea of the fad. But as for your points about no morals, no point to life, the point to life is procreation, reproduction, and passing of the genes. The morals is you can derive pretty fair morals from it. I mean, yeah, I understand you get to the materialistic thing, and if you're just a computer that just became self-aware, you basically a computer gone psychotic. Yeah, you'd get to if you're an existentialist who believes they have to explain everything. But I guess even when I was an atheist, as an atheist materialist, dialectical materialist, communist, I believed well, there's some things that where irrationality is better. Yeah, if I'm gonna, but it wasn't really irrationality once you think about it. If I'm gonna risk my life to save my child or to save somebody who I love, that love comes from virtue and comes from benefit. So they will benefit the world. The world that I want to create, that my genes are telling me to strive to create, I will self-sacrifice. Now, it's not self-sacrifice, really, because we're an organism. So only one of us dies. The rest of our genes get passed on, and the herd survives. This is in the animal kingdom all the time. You don't need any higher soul. Then again, people like me actually, believe animals totally aren't soulless. Not dogs. I love dogs. Dogs are people too. But this is just my response to. This is probably a Latin name. I'm going to butcher it. So I said at the beginning of shit. I forgot what it was. Why in atheism nothing matters.